Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the food you eat every single day. Because here's the thing, so much of what we think of as normal, cereal for breakfast, low-fat snacks, all of it, it's not normal at all. It's actually a massive, century-long experiment. And we're the test subjects. Okay, let's get into it.
So just take a look at this. On the left, you've got a typical breakfast from around 1900. It's full of natural fats, eggs, butter, things like that. Now look at the right. A pretty common breakfast today, right? It's an engineered blast of sugar, processed grains, and chemical sweeteners. This shift didn't happen by accident. And the craziest part, the generations raised on the food on the right think this is just what breakfast is.
So, the big question is, how on earth did we get here? Well, this whole transformation wasn't a slow, natural evolution. It was designed piece by piece by a handful of key people, a moralist, a scientist, a politician, and a psychophysicist. Their decisions created the bizarre food world we live in today, a world that's totally new and, frankly, not very good for us.
And believe it or not, our story doesn't start in some corporate boardroom or a high-tech lab. It starts in a religious health spa with a man who was convinced that bland food was the secret to being a good person.
This is Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. He ran the Battle Creek Sanitarium, and he was on a crusade. He truly believed that the typical American diet, which was heavy and rich, was the root of all evil. He thought it caused not just indigestion, or dyspepsia as he called it, but moral corruption. Seriously. So his solution was to invent flaked cereal. He saw it as a medical treatment, a way to purify the body and the soul.
But, and this is a huge but, this is where we hit our first major turning point. John Harvey's brother, W.K. Kellogg, saw something totally different. He knew those bland health flakes would never sell. So he had a simple but world-changing idea. Just add sugar. John Harvey was appalled, but W.K. put business first. And just like that, the modern breakfast cereal industry, selling pure sugar with a little halo of health, was born.
Okay, so sugar is now making its way into our food. But for it to really take over, it needed a fall guy. And the next person in our story created the perfect dietary villain.
Take a look at this chart. This right here, this changed everything. Back in 1953, a physiologist named Ansel Keys presented this data, and it showed what looked like a perfect, undeniable link. The more fat a country ate, the more heart disease it had. It was a simple, powerful, and frankly terrifying story that basically made dietary fat public enemy number one for decades.
But here's the kicker. Let's look at the data Keys didn't show you. See, he actually had data from 22 countries, not just the 6 that fit his theory. And when you plot all the data points, poof, that perfect straight line just vanishes. It's all over the place. He cherry-picked the data to prove his point, and the entire world bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Now, this new war on fat wasn't just some academic mistake. The sugar industry saw a golden opportunity. In 1965, the Sugar Research Foundation quietly paid a group of Harvard scientists, the equivalent of about $50,000 today, for something called Project 226. Their job? To publish a major review in a medical journal that basically said, hey, don't worry about sugar, the real problem is saturated fat. It worked beautifully. For the next 50 years, fat was the enemy. So, let's recap. Fat is now the villain. Sugar has a get-out-of-jail-free card. The stage is perfectly set for our next character, a politician, to step in and make the perfect ingredient for processed food dirt cheap.
Meet Earl Butz. He was Nixon's Secretary of Agriculture, and in the 70s, he completely upended the American farm system. He told farmers to forget about the old ways of controlling prices. His new mantra was simple, summed up right here. Produce as much as you possibly can, especially commodity crops like corn.
And the effect was just massive and immediate. You can see it here. American farming changed overnight from small, diverse family farms to huge agribusinesses that only grew corn and soy. This created a colossal surplus of corn, which made it practically worthless. So now the industry had a new problem. What do we do with all these mountains of cheap corn?
And this right here was the ingenious solution. Food scientists figured out how to turn that cheap corn surplus into high fructose corn syrup. It was incredibly sweet, way cheaper than sugar, and worked better in processed foods. All of a sudden, the food industry had a nearly infinite river of cheap sweetener. Right at the exact moment, the low-fat craze was taking off, and they needed to add sugar back in to make anything taste good.
So,
Now we've got this super cheap, super sweet ingredient flooding the market. The next step was to figure out how to weaponize it. And to do that, the science of addiction was about to be imported from a very, very unlikely place and put right into your grocery cart.
Now that seems like a crazy question, right? But the answer is absolutely key to understanding the food we eat today. The connection is all about who went shopping in the 1980s.
In the 80s, Big Tobacco basically bought the American pantry. Philip Morris, the company behind Marlboro, bought General Foods and Kraft. R.J. Reynolds, the Camel cigarettes people, bought Nabisco. And this wasn't just about money. They brought their entire playbook with them, all their technology, their marketing know-how, the whole shebang. And crucially, they brought their chemists. For instance, the tobacco industry used ammonia technology to freebase nicotine in cigarettes. What that does is it makes the nicotine hit your brain faster and harder, making it more addictive. While food scientists discovered they could use that exact same technology to create intense artificial flavors in processed foods that would otherwise taste like cardboard.
This whole scientific approach hit its peak with a guy named Howard Moskowitz. He was a psychophysicist, and he came up with this concept called the bliss point. See, this isn't just about making food taste good. It's about using math to find the exact formula of salt, sugar, and fat that lights up our brain's reward centers like a pinball machine, making us crave more and more.
And they found it. This chart basically shows the magic formula, the perfect ratio for making something irresistible. You will never, ever find this specific sensory combination in nature. It's completely artificial, but it is perfectly optimized to hijack our biology.
And if that wasn't enough, they even perfected a kind of neurological trick. The industry calls it vanishing caloric density. Think about how Cheetos or potato chips just melt in your mouth. That's it. This literally fools your brain into thinking the calories have just disappeared. So your body's natural, hey, I'm full signal never gets sent. It's designed to make you just keep eating.
So when you lay it all out like this, you see how these separate events created the perfect storm. Earl Butts's policies gave them the cheap raw material. Ansel Keys's flawed science created the demand for low-fat foods loaded with sugar. And then Big Tobacco came in with the chemical and psychological tools to make it all addictive.
So, what's the end result of this whole century-long experiment? Well, when all these changes started back in the 1970s, the adult obesity rate in the US was less than 2%. Today, it's over 42%. This isn't a story about a sudden collapse of individual willpower. It's the totally predictable result of a system that was perfectly designed for overconsumption.
And that really brings us to the final and most important question. We didn't get here by accident. Our entire food environment was engineered step by step with incredible precision. And if you know that, if you know it was designed, then you have to ask, who has the power to redesign it?